Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third-world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Philosophical bent. There's a life lesson in the song. Sometimes it's just crazy, but often they're actually trying to have some lesson, some take away from it.
Right. That's very true. Do you have a favorite piece of music?
I'm not sure. Nothing really,
Okay.
I enjoy jazz and classical, country, rock.
Okay.
So I don't know where that favorite piece is.
Gotcha. That's fine. Well, listen, let me ask you this. How did you get started in contracting and the contracting industry? And what do you think has made you successful throughout your career?
What got me started is I've always, since I was a preteen, I've always liked taking things apart and then learning how to put them back together. I've always liked fixing stuff. I was the kid in the classroom that the teachers would call on to fix stuff. The school maintenance people might not get around to it, but they'd say, Larry, can you quiet this bell down? Or Larry, the heater isn't working. Can you look at it? And I love doing that stuff. That was better than being out on the playground. So
wow.
I've just always sort of seen physical stuff. I can see it. I can see its motions. I'm very kinesthetic. So that's how I got started. And remind me the other question.
What do you think has made you successful?
I think a big part of it is I really try to understand what I'm doing, and I try to understand where people are. I try to listen well and understand what their real need is. And if they're willing to learn, if they'll let me teach them, even better. My basic goal is to help. If they'll let me help, if I have knowledge that I can use to help them, then great. And my field for a long time has been hot water. Anything about hot water. And other contractors often were, where's the work coming from? I don't know what I can do. And I'm backed up for months because everybody wants hot water. And the nice thing about it is often it's upkeep sort of work, that it's not an emergency. I can schedule it and just keep things rolling. So I think I did the math once over a period of 10 years.
Okay.
I had total one slow week.
Oh, wow. That's a good record. That's a good record for an independent contractor. But what's interesting is you have specialized in one area, one niche area, which is, like you said, is hot water and everything to do with hot water. And you've gone from reading your book, you've gone very deep where you can look at a situation or someone's hot water tank And before you start working on it, you analyze certain aspects so that when you're done analyzing, you actually know better about what's really going on than just the idea that they don't have hot water. It could be something totally different. And that gets me into my first question around your book is the idea that slowing down helps you to get more done. Can you walk us through that process where you've done that?
Sure. Well, a couple of different things, but if I'm troubleshooting,
okay,
the key to troubleshooting is gathering up lots of information, just absolutely hordes of it. And that can come in various ways. I've personally worked on well over 5,000 water heaters. So I've seen how they behave and misbehave. I've seen how they get put in wrong. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen how they get blamed for things that have nothing to do with the water heater. I've seen them get called hot water heater when they really are cold water heaters. Hot water doesn't need heating. Humor, I'm sorry. But I also have been a member of the National Association of Corrosion Engineers, a member of ASHRAE. If I study these things, study the science, the metallurgy, the chemistry, the corrosion processes behind the heat transfer, if I understand all these things well, I can bring a lot more to bear. I can bring multiple perspectives to any given problem and look at it from different points of view and really surround it and get a good idea what might be going on. I've been up to the 8th plumber called on a job to figure things out.
Oh, wow. They've gone through 7 of them. They brought you in and you kind of sat there and took your time and slowly figured out what was going on and got the situation corrected.
So part of the going slow is my brain is actually doing some work. I'm looking at it from all these points of view, but instead of never jump to conclusions, just sit down, gather the information, talk to the person there who lives with these things, get their input on it, just round up all of the information. Once you've done that, then, some paths to resolution jump out.
Right. And because of all your experience and everything you've seen.
Right. And what I've studied. And I look for patterns in things. Often the problem has nothing to do with the water heater, but I've understood that some brands of faucets allow a crossover between hot and cold in that faucet. Right. So the problem may have nothing to do with the water heater, but they have this old style faucet that's allowing this crossover. So they only lukewarm water at other taps in the house.
Right. That's amazing. Now, you've observed highly efficient workers over the years. What common habits and patterns do people who are very efficient at what you do, what have you observed that you could share that others are often missing?
Well, I'll start by saying not moving fast. Moving at a moderate pace keeps you sative. It keeps all your fingers on your hands. I mean, there's so many ways people can get hurt. Yeah. They're in a hurry. They've stacked ladders on ladders to get up to where they're going because that's what they had. It doesn't cut it. If you get hurt, suddenly the job's not getting done very fast at all. So not being in a hurry does a huge amount to prevent you from getting hurt to start with. And then, actually taking the time to look at the whole job from a number of perspectives. And this doesn't have to take a long time, but if you just slow down and calmly be very present, forget about the past, forget about the future, just be right here, right now, look at what you have, gather the information. These things really help to make a job go well. On job sites where there are a bunch of people scurrying around, having an idea of the other people on the site and what and what they do, what they're good at, what they're messy with. Right. That helps too.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because your philosophy and the things that I read that you have in your book reminds me of a good CEO. It reminds me of a really good consultant or advisor. And so you could take the concepts that you talk about in your book, you even talked about taking a class where you learn how to teach technical information in a way that made it easy for people who are more kinesthetic to learn those skills, right? And I was really blown away and honestly really amazed at just how much wisdom that you have in your book that can be applied to any other industry or anything somebody's working on. And it's those basic principles. And I think the number one, as you're saying, is when you're facing a problem, slow down. One, that keeps the amygdala from being amygdala hijack, right? From our brains just kind of being a monkey brain and kind of squirrely throwing out things. We slow down, we methodically think it through. We remember all the things that we've studied about how it actually works. We bring in all of our history, and then we look at and we do a diagnosis. I mean, that's like going to a really good doctor. That's what I would want for my doctor is, hey, doc, this hurts. Okay, let's slow down. Let's do some lab work. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's figure this out. Oh, it's not your diet. It's not this. It's this other thing.
Right.
But you would never know that if you didn't slow down and go through the process.
Rounding up all the data is so, if you don't do that, you're not troubleshooting. You're in contracting, in plumbing, in repair. It's called the parts cannon. You just you throw new parts at something until you hope it finally works.
Yeah.
That's not how we want to do it.
Right. And it's funny, that's not only in plumbing, that can be in code writing, in financial services, that can be in so many different things that we are into these days are trying to fix. And especially right now with the economy being in question, so many things are up in the air, people are losing their jobs, AI is coming on, and it's putting a lot of fear.
Right.
It's putting a lot of fear out there. Can you share a story where you had a client that was impatient? They wanted the thing done now, but you knew that you needed to step back and really analyze the situation. And even though they were in a hurry, you kind of leveraged your experience and wisdom to slow down the process and actually fix the situation where if you would have done what they asked you to do, it would have caused more harm than good.
I've got two stories. One about a client that was like that in a grand hurry that I fired. This is even before I got into hot water work. I'm a licensed general contractor. I had a client who was a lawyer who had a rental upstairs. The stairs to the place were rotten. And he wanted me to just put some plywood on top of the rotten stairs and call it good.
Right.
And I said, no, someone's going to fall through this and get hurt. But he wouldn't have it any other way. So I fired him. I wasn't going to be part of something like that. Going to get somebody hurt.
Right.
Yeah. That just does not.
That doesn't bode well because as a lawyer, you'd think, well, that they could come back and sue him and actually win the case, because if they find out that it was basically malpractice by putting a sheet of wood over a rotten foundation, that could be a really big lawsuit. What was the other story?
Well, the other approach is often people want new water heaters, and they say, we'll put one in the same size that's there. And I say, no, hold on just a second. Why don't we measure the flow of the shower heads? That's often the biggest use in the house. And let's measure them. Oh, it's putting out 8 gallons a minute. And I've measured and found this. That means that you're going to get like a 4-minute long shower from a standard 40 or 50 gallon water heater.
Wow.
It's going to be a real short, unhappy experience. So let's put a good low flow, like 1.5 gallon per minute shower head in. Now you'll be able to get a smaller heater and still get a better shower. Because you've slowed the flow down. You're not going through as many gallons.
Right.
you only get about 70 to 75% of the volume as a tank as undiluted hot water.
Right.
So you get roughly 30 gallons of hot water from a 40-gallon heater before it starts cooling.
Right.
So if you have a lower flow shower head, you'll get many more minutes of hot shower. So that becomes a really cheap way
Yeah.
of giving them even better service than they're used to.
Right. Because otherwise a standard plumber or somebody contractor would have just said, sure, let's do that. And they buy the new product. They add a cost to that. They put it in, they add the cost to that. So they're walking away saying, hey, they're happy. I'm happy. I just made some money. But what you're talking about is, hey, let's leave them off and make sure that they really are better off. Even if I'm not going to make as much money on the project, I'm going to make sure that they are much more of a satisfied customer so that then they know that, one, I can build trust. Right?
And about that making money thing, the other thing that I always would do installing a new water heater, add a second, there's a thing in all glass line tanks, and that's more than 90% of the water heaters sold in the US. They're glass lined. They're steel tanks with the glass enamel coating baked onto the inside. They all have this thing called a sacrificial anode rod in them that prevents rusting of the steel.
Right.
It should be a magnesium rod. It corrodes away slowly so that the steel can't rust. I always add a second one of those to a tank. Now they'll get many more years from that tank before there's any damage. And then, oh, by the way, in 5 years, give me a call. I'll come back and change those rods so we can keep this tank going. So I had thousands of clients calling me, just Larry, I think it's time for it to get you back here. The little sticker you put on the side of the tank that go up. So I'd get calls from the same people, or if they sold the house, the new owners would say, there's the sticker on this tank that says we should call you. So I built trust, and I can show people, and I did many times, make water heaters last for 50 years. So that's a big savings in money for the client, but it was also steady work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to be the plumber that saved them money, not just cost them money.
Right. Right. And because of that, they reached out to you more. And because of your knowledge, like all that you just said about the internal workings of a water heater, that it has a glass. I had literally no idea that those things are in there, and the magnesium rod. And I'm like, wow, it's like you're not just talking to a contractor, you're talking to a scientist, you're talking to a thought leader in that space, and they know all of the nuances, right? And what that does, that credibility does, is that it builds trust. And I just want to say this real quick before I get you to reply, is that I've been doing a lot of reading lately on the idea of integrity and trust. And one of the things that has stood out to me from some of the books that I've kind of read together was that integrity and trust are also skills, because they're things that we can practice. A skill is something you can practice and get better at. And so it's a philosophy, there are values to it, but it is also a skill that if you do something consistently over time, you build a strong foundation of trust. And what you're telling me is that's what you've done throughout your career for your clients.
Well, and to cast the net a little wider, when I started doing plumbing around here, all the plumbers were busy calling each other bad names. That's just how it. I decided I wanted to focus in hot water. So I called all the other plumbers and said, what are you best at? What kind of work do you like doing most? One guy likes sewer work, another likes repiping, whatever. Okay. I'd go to a house and do work on a water heater. And they'd say, oh, by the way, we want to do we got this slow drain or something. Oh, you want to call so-and-so. I wanted to just do hot water. It's so much more efficient than trying to carry a whole hardware store in the back of my truck. I mean, just focus on hot water.
So you were like the Southwest Airlines of of plumbing, because Southwest, the reason they made so much money over a long period of time and had quarterly profits year after year is that they only flew one kind of plane. They just did I think it was like the 737 or something like that, but that's all they did. So the mechanics, the parts, the pilots, everybody knew exactly what they were getting into. They didn't have all these different types of planes that they had to fly.
And for me, it was focus on hot water, get good at it, refer work away that wasn't my thing. Pretty soon, the other plumbers were referring work back. Pretty soon, the local power company and the water company were referring jobs to me when they had in their policy, clearly they would not recommend anybody.
Right.
I was the guy. I was the hot water guy. So they do that.
So another lesson that you're teaching us is by focusing on something that you love to do, that you're very interested in, that you knew created value for the customer, that you got so good at, as you say, hot water and understanding of hot water, that now companies that didn't recommend people, even had it in their policy they wouldn't recommend people, recommended you. And the other contractors who were talking bad about each other started recommending you because you would recommend them because you figured out what their sweet spots are.
So it changed the whole dynamic of the contractors. They started being friends instead of being adversaries.
Right. So they basically created a bigger pie, right?
Yeah.
They realized that if we work together, we could actually create a much bigger pie in this industry of home services and water and piping and all those kinds of the fundamental tooling of a house, if you will, or a construction unit, whether it's a building or a house or whatever. But they created a bigger pie. And I think what listeners can take from this is you also, it may take a little time, but you also in your industry can create a bigger pie by partnering, by building relationships, by being singularly focused on what you're good at and not trying to be the jack of all trades, but really being that specialist.
I think being a jack of all trades, knowing a little bit about everything is great. That helps, but focus.
Right.
That really does it. Yeah. The other big thing for me is being of service. That's just how I want to be in the world. If I can help people, animals, doesn't matter. If I can help, that's what I want to be doing. And I think people get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you had a couple of stories in your book about helping animals and
yeah.
It's a fascinating book. It really is.
Animals help back. My cat Prince is on the chair right next to me, and he's teaching me all kinds of stuff. Like, what do I have to be afraid of? Oh, nothing. I don't need fear. Is there anything? Do I have to worry about food? No, it shows up. Are there toys around? Yes, it's whatever my paws can get their toenails into. He's got no worries.
Gotcha.
I need to learn this whole concept of no worries.
Yeah, Makuna Matata, right? Well, listen, one last question, and then I'll ask where people can learn more about you and get your book. How can people, our listeners who are in totally different fields, they're not in construction, they're not into plumbing, they're not into hot water, but they're into tech, they're into healthcare, they're into finances, they're into pharmaceuticals, they're into AI or whatever the case may be, or productivity. How can they apply the slowdown method to speed up philosophy that has worked really well for yourself?
I think if there's a single word, it's presence. That is, if we can just be right here, right now, focus on what's in front of us, not be influenced by fear from the past or worries of the future. Presence, and then service, or being help, even simply, how can I help? I love to fix things. There are plenty of problems in the world to fix.
Right.
If we can focus And this means finding quiet, internal quiet.
Yeah.
If we can get that, and then presence and the desire to be helpful for others,
Right.
can have enormous impacts in whatever field. I mean, things nothing to do with plumbing. I've saved lives. I've prevented suicides by.
Right. I mean, we talk about that in your book. Yes.
Yeah. Is that too vague?
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Because it's so important to understand that, the niche or the focus area is just that, right? I mean, plumbing is a commodity, right? Because you have tons of plumbers, you have tons of people, but you only have one Larry Weingarten, right? Because you have taken what you want to do and have made it so that you've become a core part of your client's experience, and that when they think of hot water, they see your face, they see you, right? And so they know, they're constantly looking at, when things need to be updated. And because you were honest, because you created trust, because you were a person of integrity, because you slowly went into the problem and gave them a true solution, whether it was a new water heater or a new overall system or a new shower head that delivered less water and was more efficient, they knew, hey, this guy I can trust. And it was something that they believed intellectually, but it was also something that they felt. So that when things happen, they didn't call anybody else. They picked you up. And that's why in 10 years, you had one slow week. And that's a great place to be. I think we all would want to be that way, because when companies or people get in trouble, they look for, I was telling somebody the other day, if you're on a boat and the boat starts having problems with water, everyone on the boat is going to look for luggage or baggage or anything that's going to weigh it down, but you can't throw away the propeller. You can't throw away the hull. You can't throw away the sides of the boat. So what you've done in your career is you've made yourself a core part of people's hot water solution.
Yeah. I mean, one of my guiding principles has been, I will not leave a job till it's fixed. I just won't. And if a Band-Aid is the only fix to get them through the night, fine, but I'm coming back with the right stuff later.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. Again, I loved your book, The Philosopher's Wrench, Using Creativity, Common Sense, and Heart. So Larry, where can people learn about you and where can they get your book?
Well, I have a website, LarryWeingarten.com, and that's about me. I've got a blog that I put new stuff on every now and then. There's plenty of other stuff and resources there. The book, Amazon has it. And by the way, that's book one. We're just going through the editing of book two.
Awesome.
As well. So yet more coming.
Well, I definitely have to have you back on when you have book two come out, because again, as I've gone through the book myself, it just gave me a deeper appreciation for hot water and all of the nuances, because, you really, I mean, you got into the science of how this all works and what, how the mechanisms of the hot water heater and what's right for people and what's not right. And there are other solutions that can address people's problems. And it's like to me, you're like the tour guide of hot water, right? You're not the travel agent. A travel agent is somebody who tells you where to go and how to do it, but they've never done it before and they've never been there. To me, you're the tour guide of hot water, where you've been there, done that thousands of times, and you really give great advice.
I don't know if there's time, but if I can throw in a quick story.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a high school for disadvantaged youth here. We're talking drugs, gangs, jail.
Yeah.
I've been helping to teach construction there.
Okay.
And we built a house, 800 square foot house and trucked it down to Orange County, California, where there was a competition which had universities and colleges from around the world and one high school, us. And we actually won that competition for the most sustainable house.
Wow.
I got to play with showing them a new kind of solar water heating system. We plumbed the whole house in 1/4-inch tubing, which is like ice maker size stuff, little tiny tubing. So they get hot water in seconds with very little water waste. All kinds of fun stuff. I got to show these students about the future of plumbing,
Right.
and how we can do better. And they went from face-to-face conversation used to be you talk to them, they mumble at the ground.
Right.
Went from that to public speaking.
Wow.
Their confidence increased so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love being part of having that effect of being, how can I say, being useful or doing good in the world in ways like that.
Right. What a legacy. This is an amazing legacy that you're leaving of, your love for hot water, but also your love for people. And it shows in not only what you're saying, but how you're saying it and how you are getting involved in areas where the youth are struggling, are going through challenges, and they just need that tour guide or that sage who's willing to believe in them and also who's willing to talk at their level. And
Right.
yet I'm sure as you start the process and you said they're kind of mumbling, and then by the time you finish working with them, they're able to be a public speaker and sharing their thoughts and wisdom, is that through that process, they realized that you were worthy of respect, and they gave you that respect, and they stopped trying to be all of that and a bully and step back and say, hey, I think I can learn from this guy. I think this guy can teach me some things.
They got some real confidence in themselves.
Right.
Somehow,
Right.
I just try to help grease those skids.
That's part of inspiration. It's something that we inspire, we put into someone else. And so you did some amazing inspirational work and inspiring them and putting inspiration into them so that they can then stand up on their own to do those things.
They were coming to me and crying because they'd never had in their lives anyone actually listen to them.
Yeah, I could believe that. I got to definitely have you back on the show. We have to continue this conversation. I think we're going to stop it here. Again, I don't care what field you're in. You need to go out and get this book, The Philosopher's Wrench. We'll put it all in the notes. We'll put the link to your website and the links to the book in the show notes. I definitely want to encourage people to go out and get The Philosopher's Wrench, using creativity, common sense, and heart. Larry, thank you so much for being on the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.